This is a tutorial for the game Abyss on Board Game Arena. This is a game from Bruna Catala. It is a set collection, a little bit of push your luck, set in this deep water mystical universe. It's fairly straightforward. The goal of the game is to receive victory points. You receive victory points mostly by recruiting these Lord cards. That top left number is points that you get at the end of the game. And you'll have these locations that you can gain as well that give you victory points. There are a few other ways, such as monster tokens, which we'll talk about, that you get points as well. But primarily, most of your points are going to come from these lords or locations. On your turn, you can do one of three things. You can either explore, which starts you through this deck to try to receive a card from this deck, or fight a monster from this deck. You can get help from the council, which is basically just take one of the piles that is accumulated from these five races or suits or colors, or you can purchase a lord from the deck or from the market that is shown. The explore option is how you get is the main way that you'll get cards to make those purchases. And the cards will be in these 5 different colors, and they will be in values from 1 to 5. The deck consists of 1 5 of each color, 2 4s, 3 3s, 3 2s, and 4 1s. Then there are these monster cards, which we'll see as we go forward. So if you choose the explore option, you start flipping over these cards. And the first time when you flip over a card, we see this is a 2 jellyfish, which is this purple race here. Now, as soon as you flip that over, you have to give your opponents an opportunity to purchase this card. And they can do that with 1 pearl. Pearls are kind of the currency of the game. They're used for a few things, but if it will go around, and if either of my opponents would like to purchase this card, then they would pay me 1 pearl. We each start off with 1, and they would give me their pearl. An opponent can do this once per turn. So as the active player, each of my opponents could buy 1 of the cards as I flip them, but no more than that. And if somebody else has bought 1 for 1 pearl, then the next person who buys 1 has to pay 2 pearls, and then 3, and so forth. With a 3-player game, it's only 1 or 2. Me, as the active player, if everybody passes on that, I could choose to take this card for free. I get the card for free. If other opponents want to buy it, they have to pay me pearls for it. So let's say each of them pass, and I decide I don't want to take this purple 2. They both pass, so I have the option to either take this card or continue exploring. And so I do, and now I run into a monster card. So the monster card, I don't offer that to my opponents. I either decide to fight the monster and get whatever reward the monster track is on, or pass, and that makes the monster track move up, which gives more benefit. As soon as somebody does defeat the monster, and you just basically decide I want to defeat the monster, then you get whatever reward that this track is on, and it resets back to the beginning. So I decide, oh, I don't want to fight this monster because it's only either 1 pearl or 1 monster token, which is a token that has 1 to 5 or 1 to 4 points on it that you keep, and you don't show anybody till the end of the game. Whereas if the monster track was up here, you would get better rewards. So I decide I'm going to skip that, so the monster track moves up, and the next person who faces the monster can say either skip and it moves up to here, or take these rewards and it moves back to the bottom. Now I have this yellow 3 that's shown up, and so I offer that to opponents. The first opponent, they both pass on it, they both don't want it. I could take it if I'd like. And the thing is, as I take these, the ones that are later on, everything that I don't take that's not a monster card is put into this row. So if I took this one, this purple would go into here. And so these piles can start building up. And as somebody's turn, they can just take a full pile. So if one of these piles gets up to 3 or 4, then somebody's probably going to take it, because that's 3 or 4 cards that you just get for free. So that's kind of the push your luck element of it. Like, the longer you go, the more options you give other players to purchase, and the more things that you put in this council that people can take as well. I don't remember. I did decide to take that one, so I got it for free. They both passed. And then the purple one went into this pile, and the monster was simply discarded. So that's the first option. You simply go through that. If you get to this very last one, you place it there. You still let people bid on it if they haven't taken one already. And if nobody takes it, then you have to take it, but you also get a pearl as well. And then all 4 of these go into their piles or discards if they're monsters. That's the kind of the main, the longest action that you can take is this first explore action. The second action, the request help from the council action, is basically just taking a full pile from one of these 5 colors. So I could, on my action, just take this one. That wouldn't be necessarily very smart. I kind of know what's in there. You can't look at the piles, but you can see how many are in each color. So if you can remember, then you can figure out which numbers are in there. But I do remember that we put a purple 2 in there, so that's what's in here as well. So for my turn, I could, or for the next person's turn, they could just take this one instead of doing the explore. But they're probably going to do the explore too. Now they pulled a 4. That's a pretty good one. They don't get, the person who pulled that does not get first pass at it, but the next opponent does. They decide to take it. They pay that person 1 pearl, so you can see now that person has 0 pearls and the active player has 2. And they pull another one. And now, because this player does not have any pearls left and they've already purchased one, they're going to get skipped. They don't get it. They're not going to get an offer. Because I only have 1 pearl left, I'm not going to be offered any, because it would cost me 2 pearls now since somebody already bought one. So now this active player can just go until they find one they like. And so they'll keep going. Here's the monster card. Now they can decide, do they want to keep going or do they want to take the benefits here. They decide to take the monster benefits. Now they get to choose either 2 pearls, 1 pearl and a monster token, or 2 monster tokens. This one is for keys. We'll talk about those later. And again, as you go further, the rewards get better. Keys are what you use to get locations, and those give you lots of points. So they took that, and it reset the track. All right, so those are the 2 actions. You can explore. You can grab one of these piles. You can see this one's filled out here. Again, these probably aren't worth it, but as they grow, then they start to become more worth it for sure. Or you can recruit a lord. These are the lords. They all have special powers for them. Well, they for the most part have special powers. Certain races or colors have different types of powers, or they more have points rather than powers. But they all have some sort of requirement, and that's this requirement here. And the requirement, there's a number requirement first. You have to meet at least that number with the cards that you pay, and you pay it with these, what are called allies. Basically, these are the cards that we're pulling. You have to pay at least that number. They have to add up to that number. So in this case, 6, 10, 10, so forth. And then these circles here mean how many different colors you have to pay with, different races that you have to pay with. And one of those colors is this green, which means you have to have at least 1 green card when you pay. So if you pay with 1 green card and then 2 other races, 2 other color of cards, and it could be multiple cards of that color, then you can purchase this one for 6. So if I had a 3 of green, a 2 of yellow, and a 1 of purple, I could buy this. Or a 2 of green, a 2 and a 1 of blue, and a 2 of red. Even though that's more than 6, I can spend those and buy this this card. It would give me 5 points at the end. It gives me a key that I'll be able to use to get a location, and it gives me a power. Also, you can use pearls to make up the difference in that number. So if it's like a higher number, let's say it's this 10 here. So this 10 requires a value 10, but you can only use purple cards. If I only had like 7 worth of purple cards, I could pay 3 pearls to make up the difference. You do have to meet the requirements. So in something like this, you would still have to have 3 races exactly, 3 colors exactly, and at least 1 green. But if the number total didn't come up, you could make up for that with pearls. This one's a little different. There's no required race, but it requires at least 1 of each color. That's the 5 circles there. And then here, 3 circles, so 3 different colors. 1 at least has to be blue, and it has to equal up to 12. These lords have powers on them. If you see a little arrow here, that's an immediate power. So as soon as you recruit, this one's kind of nice. It basically says, hey, when you do this, just take a location, just draw the top location of the deck and just place it under your control. And you do that immediately. This one lets you take an extra turn when you recruit this lord. Then there are some that have ongoing effects. And so like this one, if you have this one recruited, then every time you discard or you send these colors down to this row, you get pearls for each different color you do it. Now notice this has a key on it. So you can get keys in 2 different ways, either from this monster track or from these cards. More commonly from these Lord cards. As soon as you get 3 keys, you have to take a location. Now, why wouldn't you? There are lots of points. Well, when you use the keys that are on a card, you lose the power that is on that card as well. So typically the cards with the keys on them are ones that have ongoing powers, but they don't want you to have those powers forever. So as soon as you gain up to 3, you have to use the location. You tuck these cards in that location. You still get the points at the end of the game, but you no longer get those powers. The locations, this one's a bit of a weird one. Most of the locations are get X points for every green lord that you have plus 6 at the end, or some variation of that. This first one is basically like search through the deck and find one that you want. But when you have those 3 keys, part of your turn, as soon as you get that, you will claim a location. And the way that happens, right now there's 1 that's shown, but when you claim a location, you draw up to 4, then you pick from those and you put the others out available. Or you can take one that's available. So that's like, why wouldn't I draw 4? Well, if you draw 4 and you pick 1 and you leave 3, now that gives better choices for others. Like if there's one that the other player really wants, they can take that one. That's really good points for it. So maybe you don't want to give them as many options. But you just have to kind of figure out the benefits to you versus the benefits that you're giving to others. As these lords are recruited, they will leave these spots open. If it ever gets down to just 2 lords left, whoever recruited that last lord gets 2 pearls and everything is refilled. Also, at the beginning of your turn, if there's an open spot, you can just pay 1 pearl and refill it. If you don't like any of the lords and you're like, I'd like to search for some more, you can pay a pearl and fill in blank spots at the beginning of your turn to try to find new ones. Finally, whenever you pay for a lord, you'll have a set of cards that you pay for. You take the lowest number card that you paid for the lord and you put it under your affiliated allies. That means, and like if I paid with a yellow 1, a blue 2, and a green 3 on this one, I would take that yellow 1 and I would put it under my affiliated allies. At the end of the game, you'll take the lowest card of each color in your hand and also put it in affiliated allies. And then you will take the highest number of each color and add it to your score. So that makes you want to, it encourages you to pay with higher level cards so you can get those better affiliated allies. All right, so I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit to show kind of some of the lords shown and what kind of a mid game, what mid game looks like. Okay, this is somewhat of the middle of the game. As you can see, some lords have been recruited. I have 2. My opponents each have 2 or 3. One of my opponents already has one of their a location because they got the card that lets them just take a location from the top. You see there's a blank here, so at the beginning of anybody's turn, they could pay a pearl to fill in that blank. Things again slide down as they go. The council here has started filling. You can see this one has 4 in it. So for your turn, instead of exploring and getting 1 card, you could just take all the greens and get 4 green cards there. In fact, I believe that's what this player eventually does. Oh no, they end up, they're buying for a lord there as well. You can see my hands here. They are paying. Oh no, they decided not to. They did just take the 4 from the green. So again, here it's my turn. I can do this plot action is what it's called, where I fill that in, but I decide not to. I ended up with this shipmaster power, so it benefits me to get lots of these different colors, and gives me a lot of pearls for that, just from people both buying them from me and from me sending to the council and getting pearls that way. So that was kind of my strategy. But again, I'm building up these lords, and the game ends when one of 2 things happen. Either this deck runs out and you can't refill when you're supposed to, or somebody gets 7 lords total. And then that person, whoever triggers it, everybody else will get 1 turn. It doesn't finish the round, it's just everybody else gets one last turn. You can see I have a couple of affiliated allies, and they do as well. Note that I have these 2 keys. I was kind of trying to avoid getting keys as well, because as soon as I get 2 keys, then both of these powers go away. Even though the location gives me lots of points, I kind of wanted waited and getting the effects out of these 2 ongoing powers instead. Finally, something to point out on BGA, you have this little section here where you can decide to automatically pass. So if you're doing turn-based on BGA or even real-time, you can say, I don't want anything higher than level 1 or lower. I don't want any card that's level 1 or lower, so I'm going to automatically pass on those. Or maybe like, well, I really need a yellow, so I'll just pass on blue and red. And you can set each level, and you say, well, I don't want any blue except the highest. So you can do that to help your game go a little quicker, so that you don't have to always say, no, I don't want it, no, I don't want it, on other people's turns. So I highly recommend doing that, especially if you're playing turn-based. Then at the end of the game, the monster tokens, you can see how many monster tokens people have. Those will be revealed. You can see mine are worth 2 and 3 in this case, but I can't see how many my opponents have. You'll count those up. You'll put, again, cards from your hands into your affiliated allies, the lowest of each number. So if I ended now, I'd do the 1 purple, this 3 yellow, and the 2 green. And then for each color, the highest number will be added to my score as well. That ended up making the difference in this game. My opponent had some high valued cards in their hand that they were able to put in their affiliated allies and make the difference in that game. And so that's basically it. You're trying to collect the right cards to pay for these lords and use their powers and to get keys, to get locations, to get more points. All right, I hope that's helpful.